How are we determining the draft order, Andrew?
You know, I thought I could just do work while
this is the last thing. This is the last thing. Oh, wait.
Forgot.
And actually, hold on. And actually, I'll ask you, is it, I forget, we always have this conversation. Is it snake or is it?
Pick 'em. It's back and forth.
Back and forth. Okay.
Yeah. Like you're choosing 5 teams on the court.
Wonderful.
Okay. Like then LA Fitness, 24-hour fitness on the playground, whichever. We'll go back to the same high tech operation we use for every draft to decide the order. And it's high card draw. And we do a quick shuffle. So that way you can all know that I'm not cheating, or at least trust that I'm not cheating. Trust that I'm not cheating. Those are words.
Again,
Tails. You know what? That'd probably be easy. Happy football day, by the way. Football starting literally as we speak, as we do this draft.
I think I have Cooper Cup going right now.
Same. Shout out PPR League. All right. Benji, you are the guest. You'll get to go first. Your card is a 7.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take it.
Literally, it's about a 50-50 chance of getting the first pick.
I kind of want to see what John picks first.
John, your card is a 3. So Benji, you get to go first in our best to never win it draft.
Shiest. Okay, that's a lot of pressure because I thought about this a lot because I think there's one answer that most people would say.
Oh no, you're gonna take my fucking team. God damn you. All right.
I don't know. Okay.
You're gonna take my team. Just do your speech.
I'm gonna go with the 2018-19 Golden State Warriors.
Wow. Okay, you didn't take my team.
So
talk to me.
I think the most obvious Warriors team is, of course, the one that had the best record ever.
Yes.
To me, and the great thing about this exercise is it makes you think about not just like there's obviously statistical arguments, which I looked at carefully in terms of win-loss record, net rating, offensive, defensive ratings, playoff record, all that. But then you also have to take into consideration injuries because
yes,
there are teams that would have had amazing records that maybe didn't have as great records because guys were hurt for much of the year. There are teams that were favorites to win NBA Finals, clear favorites to win NBA Finals that didn't win because of injuries.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot. And then the last kind of factor that I found really interesting to think about was level of competition in different eras. And, you know, I think there are teams that, and this era is going to come up a lot. I think the 90s teams, a few of them that made the finals or had amazing records. I think if you look at the talent on those teams top to bottom, I don't think they quite measure up roster wise to other eras in the NBA, including the 80s, including the 60s, early 70s, and including more recent history. I think the 90s was a little more diluted, just post expansion. And so that factored in also to kind of where I went and kind of factored against some of the statistical arguments that you might have about some of those teams. Anyway.
So you favored more modern teams?
Not necessarily. I favored more modern teams versus 90s teams.
Okay.
In some instances.
Okay.
I looked at the rosters. Well, I didn't just look at the profile. Anyway, that all leads me to why my first pick is the 2018-19 Golden State Warriors. I don't think there was a team that was more likely to win the finals that didn't than that team. Because the Durant Warriors were infallible. They were undefeated. They cruised. The record that year was only 57-25. I think we all recognize that team was better than 57-25. They were not trying incredibly hard during regular season. They were first in offensive rating by a gazillion. They were only 13th in defensive rating. And I think that reflects more than their actual defensive acumen. I think it just reflects an indifference, which is, I think, the main reason why they only won 57 games. They basically flew through the playoffs. Obviously, Durant with the Achilles. They're in the finals against Toronto. They win 2 games in the finals against a really, really good Toronto team without Durant and without Klay Thompson. Like they were 2 wins away from winning the finals without 2 of their best players. That's very rare. And like, I just think that the talent on that roster is some of the best talent we've ever seen in the league. And you saw it the prior year and you saw it 2 years before and the 2 years before that. I don't think you look at the rosters, even of the top record teams that didn't win. I think this team is better than those teams. And that's why, after thinking about it for a long time, that's my first pick is the 2018-19 Golden State Warriors.
So I think objectively, it's the right pick in this specific sense. If your question is what single season has been derailed the most by an injury that had the injury not occurred, the season would have turned out differently. I'm not, because you're talking about a top, let's be conservative. Let's say a top 12 player all time in his prime. How many other top 12 players in their prime have gotten injured in a season in which they were on a team that was this good? And
favored to win to that extent.
To win to that extent. Yeah. And we go through the fact they obviously had 3 other Hall of Famers on the team. And so from that perspective, yes, and look, this is going to be for the voters to decide. I wonder, is the spirit of the exercise, because when you say like the greatest teams not to win it, there was obviously evinced by the fact that the Durant smoke, noise, whatever you want to call it, was hovering over that team for the entire year. Like, was that a great? It was. The talent was obviously there, and if Durant doesn't get hurt, I have to think that they win.
Oh yeah,
but there's that other part of it that kind of hovers over it, which I don't know. I think there's no right or wrong answer. I just think that's something to be considered.
My thought, and I agree, and I also think that, and I tried. I mean, it's all subjective, and we're making up the rules as we go. I didn't discount like season success and performance over the season. I think that's really important. And there are teams that exceed this team by a pretty good margin. The fact that we know what they were, like the fact that they're coming off 2 finals, playing some of the best basketball that we have ever seen.
Yeah.
And we know, like, it would be different if this team came together that year. So like, let's say, for example, the Durant, Kyrie, Harden Nets were a factor here, which, like, in terms of talent, maybe it would be. Yeah. But I don't have them on this list because I don't know what it looks like in the playoffs. I have no idea. But like Golden State, I know what that looks like. I saw that dominance, right? And like, although Houston did give them a ride, and Houston's an interesting part of this exercise, perhaps, that Houston Harden CP teams. But I think the fact that I know what they were and the overwhelming talent kind of got me there. But the counters are fair. The counters are fair.
Benji, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
If Klay doesn't get hurt in Game 6, do the Warriors come back and win the series?
Yes.
Okay. That adds to your point if you believe that, which I might actually be a subscriber to that. Warriors were winning. They were in their building.
Watching that game once Klay went down and like the performance that the Warriors put on, it was one of I was inspired by that. I thought that was like, just to see like Steph and Draymond just go back to the classic pick and roll drawing board and almost winning that game was really special. And yeah, I do think so. I don't know, but I think so.
Okay.
I'm going to start with my answer by just going through real quick the teams. So if you have the top, if you go, and there's a helpful Wikipedia page, just full disclosure, that does this. You look at all the teams in NBA history that have won at least 75.6% of their games. So for a full 82 game season, we're talking about teams that have won at least 62 games. There are 50 some odd, I think, or around 60, something about that. If you go through those and you rank those teams by point differential, average point differential. Fun fact, the top two teams on that list that did not win a championship are both the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm gonna go through the list here. The best team by winning percentage, the 1971-72 Los Angeles Lakers, thought by some to be the greatest team of all time, 69-13, Will Chamberlain, the whole thing. Number two on that list, the 1970-71 Milwaukee Bucks, because they did win it. After that, the 95-96 Bulls. After that, the 2019-20 Bucks. They did not win it.
That's a weird one, man.
That is a weird one.
They popped up a lot, and I could not get there.
They lost the East semis to the Heat in the bubble. I don't know how to reconcile that.
Yeah.
After that, we have another team that won it all, the 2016-17 Warriors, 67 wins, the first KD team. And then the team after that, outscored teams by 11.2 points, is the team that I am taking first overall, and that's the 1971-72 Milwaukee Bucks.